That's what I do is start at a macro level of what are people searching for first? And do I have that on my website? Am I getting some traction from that? And then from there, that's when you start going granular of what specifically are they looking for? Does that mean I have to create a page on my website? Things like that. Again, going back to what do customers want? What are they looking for? What do they need? Again, you don't want to sound like a car salesman of, what can I do to get you to leave with a car type of thing, but that's kind of what we're doing. But because of our audience, we need to educate. So our posts and things like that are educational.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, your go to guide to solving your biggest retail social media marketing challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what marketers go through, from awful algorithms to terrific trends and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, where we're digging into the challenges, successes, and the stories of social media and community professionals in the industry, just like you. Subscribe to gain valuable insights that you'll be able to apply to your own work and social presence from each and every episode. Have you been struggling to break through the noise and connect with customers who truly value what your retail brand offers? Maybe you've been casting a wide net, hoping to capture as many potential customers as possible, only to find that your message isn't resonating with anyone in particular. What if the key to growing your retail business isn't reaching more people, but reaching exactly the right people? This is the challenge facing so many retail marketers today. You're trying to be everything to everyone and consequently becoming nothing special to anyone. Your marketing budget stretches thinner each quarter while your engagement metrics barely budge. You watch as smaller, more focused brands seem to create passionate customer communities almost overnight and wonder what they know that you don't. Well, that's exactly what our guest today specializes in solving. Julie Lichtenberg is a marketing powerhouse who has mastered the art of identifying and connecting with niche audiences in innovative ways that drive real business results. As marketing communications director at Crown Bees, Julie has implemented strategies that increase customer engagement by 30% through her unique approach to audience targeting. She's positioned her company as a leader in the eco-friendly movement by identifying precisely the right audience segments and creating meaningful connections with them. Julie's expertise in finding those perfect micro audiences and leveraging them for macro growth is exactly what many retail marketers need to transform their approach. Hey, Julie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I can't wait to dive into this with you. I'd love if you could just start by sharing your background and how you came to specialize in what we're calling identifying unique target audiences at Crown Bees.
Sure. I'll give you the very shortened version. My career actually started in retail many, many, many years ago in the last century. And I stuck in retail for quite some time. And after a while, I started thinking, all of these different sales promotions that I have to say to customers, it'd be really fun to actually be on the end of creating those promotions and alerting customers of new things that are happening in the store. So I was in a lot of retail. I was in Hollywood video, just to age me a little bit. And right. I was IMDb before that existed. So through retail and customer service, I found myself in marketing. And when I started in marketing, social media was not a thing yet. We had just done the big migrate from MySpace to Facebook as a society, and LinkedIn was just starting to be a thing. So I got to really grow up in marketing alongside social media. So that's been very, very interesting. And basically, every role I've had since then, whether it was a small business or to nonprofit to now e-commerce, social media has always been a part of that, and it has to be. And it can be sometimes difficult to explain to the boss why social media is so important. So. Through my time, yeah, social media, gosh, I remember when, oh goodness, Hootsuite was brand new. It's been really interesting. Part of my nonprofit work also worked at the Washington State PTA, where everything is authentic. You have to be authentic. You have to be very community engaging. And where I am now here at Crown Bees, there is a community. There is a community of beekeepers, and I don't mean honeybees. We'll get into that, but it's been a big part of everything I do and being authentic. And the one thing that I always say is just making sure your posts are human, making sure I know AI is a thing. We've adopted AI. However, you still have to look at the post before you post it. Does this sound like a human? Does this sound not just like our brand voice, but does this sound like an actual person? Because most most customers can see the difference. And, you know, that'll that'll make or break a sale. So, that's where I am now.
Yeah. Well, okay. So first of all, editors note we're not allowed to say past century or last century on this show. That makes me feel too old. But tell me a little bit more about Crown Bees.
It's such a fascinating company, and I'm so happy to hear. So, let me twist it on you. When I say bees, what is the first thing you think?
I definitely think of honeybees pollinating.
Okay, you proved my point. So and you'll see what my point is. Um, Part of our social media is really combating this is what our owner loves to say, is combating public ignorance. And he doesn't mean that in a bad way. He means because we've been trained so much to immediately think of the honeybee and honey, all bees do not make honey. Only 0.02% of all honeybee or all bees in the world make honey. The rest are solitary bees, and they're just doing their own thing and they don't sting. So part of my job is really to educate people through social media as well as newsletters, and our website to educate people like, no, these bees are very gentle. You can raise them. They have much more pollination power than a honeybee because a honeybee, their whole purpose is to bring things back to the hive. Solitary bees, like mason bees that we specialize, they're solitary, so they're just out for themselves. I was gonna bring in a generational joke, but I'm not going to. Um, but I like to say that, mason bees and solitary bees are kind of like Gen X Zennials. We're like, just leave us alone. We're cool. Let us do our own thing. Let me just, lay my cocoons and I'm fine. So it's actually many levels of education that we do through social media. The first is educating people that there is more than just the honeybee. And then the next step is once they're interested in raising these bees, okay, now you're falling down the rabbit hole. And how do we make our website help you in that journey? So our customer journey is very, very interesting because, we're not selling shoes. You know what a shoe is. Bees, on the other hand, it falls into a whole thing with pollinators, so and native pollinators, whereas the honeybee came from Europe. Mason bees, they're from here. So I could go on, but I know we're here to talk about social media.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I know my editor's gonna he's a beekeeper. He's gonna wanna go down this rabbit hole. My kids are gonna want to. But to your point, you're right. We're here to talk about social media marketing specifically. Now, one of the things that I've talked about in the past is talking about demographics. You mentioned, generations. A lot of brands look at targeting that way, but I know you've taken a different
Mhm.
approach. What are some of the new and unique ways that you're identifying target audiences beyond those demographics?
Yeah, so, one of the things definitely is that for a long time, this was a long discussion with our owner, is that folks, it was older folks that were keeping the bees, that were doing the mason bees, and they knew what they were doing, and sometimes there isn't always that knowledge sharing. And so now with the big movement, especially since the pandemic of people wanting to grow their own food, or I need a new hobby, that has opened up a brand new group of folks, specifically millennial. I hear a lot. I'm half millennial, so it's interesting, but, millennials now are kinda going towards grandparent hobbies, and beekeeping is definitely part of that. So, um, for us, it was kind of a natural generational change, but we obviously helped with that. And the biggest thing is, and you'll hear this from other folks too, is meeting your customers where they are. We tried TikTok, that didn't work for us. Um, Instagram, yeah, Facebook works, but Reddit is, I can get into this later, but Reddit is where we're finding a lot of community building and knowledge sharing. So I've been leaning into Reddit a lot lately, as well as YouTube.
Yeah. So as you're looking at different channels, you're thinking about new potential markets and niche audiences to talk to. Are there any specific signals or indicators that are helping you identify the potential?
Honestly, what helps is when people reach out to us. We're very open. We answer the phone. We do have an AI assistant. However, we do have somebody answering the phone. So, or managing our emails. So when somebody sends us a question, you're going to get an answer from one of us. So, hearing back directly from customers has been very huge. Also, just reading comments on our YouTube channel. We have a podcast there, The Buzz on Bees, and it's really fascinating because people tell us what they want to know, or we get an increase in questions. Through our customer service. So we lean into what do customers know, and we do that with our products as well. Several people have said, "Hey, I need this blah 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 for my bee house because I have this problem," and then we think about it like, "Oh yeah, let's fix that because somebody else might be having that problem." And we do that with social media as well. If a lot of people are asking that, like, okay, let's put this house on the social. A lot of people are asking about carpenter bees. Okay, let's talk about that. Or we had a podcast episode yesterday of the top mistakes, the top epic mistakes in raising mason bees. So again, I'll keep saying it. I'm meeting people where they are. And that really, really, really will shorten your customer journey because it takes many more touch points than it used to get people to actually buy because we're in such a niche industry of it's not just a hobby, it's you have a garden, you are growing your own food. So it's not just convincing people of, oh, this is a new hobby like crochet. It's no, you're transforming your life a little bit and making it better because you're now able to have sustainable food on your own property. So it's convincing people of that rather than buy these shoes. So our touch points are a little longer because, there is minimal work with this hobby but the benefit is so much higher. So it's it's an interesting balance to say the least.
Well, I love that fundamental truth that you are restating in a lot of different ways, which is that we need to talk to our customers. We need to talk to people
Mhm,
and use that conversation, that knowledge as an input into how we're messaging our products, how we are responding to prospects
mhm,
and customers, and learn more about who those people are. Because to your point,
mhm,
folks might be interested in our products and services that we had no idea. That's not who we envisioned when we created said
mhm.
product or service. Now, for our audio listeners, I want to help them for just a moment because you can't see. Julie's in her office, but she's next to her shipping department. So the noises that you hear in the background are her shipping department. What are they actually shipping out? Are they shipping out bees? What are you guys shipping?
Bees are shipped out on Mondays, and that's for the best health of the bees, so they're not stuck on in the weekend, in a shipping delay. So they're only shipped out free 2-day FedEx. I have to throw that in there. But yes, Maddie is in the back. She's taping boxes together. So people, anything from, gosh, houses to nesting material like wood, fun stuff. So we've got you covered if you're interested in starting to raise bees. Whenever I'm coming up with something, it's like, if I were a cashier in a store and I had to say this to a customer, what would be that immediate feedback? And um, it's just fascinating. And having customer service background as well is it gives you a little bit of an edge to. yeah, if I try to do this type of promotion, people will not respond to it. So
Mm.
if you're in high school and you're thinking about going into marketing, work retail first.
Good advice. Now, Julie, could you walk us through an example where you were identifying a niche audience that maybe you guys had never thought of, you'd never tapped into that before, and yet that really panned out. It turned into significant growth for Crown Bees.
Hmm. Landscapers. That was like it's obvious, but it's not obvious. So, we've had a little success with some landscapers where they've started these are more eco-friendly landscapers where their whole role is to help folks rewild their backyard and start to grow more food. And so some of those landscapers have come to us, and we've reached out to some as well of, hey, if your clients are looking to grow more food on their property, bees, the bees will help with the pollination, which will increase their yield, and you have more food. So that was an interesting one over the last year of specific landscapers, not just landscapers, but specific landscapers. And that's very strange for us because part of what we tell people is, don't use pesticides if you're going to raise bees. So it's just been a very, very interesting relationship with those eco-friendly landscapers, and we've listed some of them on our website as well. That if you're interested in growing a victory garden in your yard, add some bees. So that's been a very very fruitful, sorry, um, partnership. But I will say as well, it's this one is a little more obvious, but working with nonprofits, which our company has done for many years, but there's a specific nonprofit, a membership nonprofit that they're all about gardens, wild ones, and they're all about native plants. So it was a very organic relationship that we have with them, where when they're doing seed exchanges, hey, start doing a cocoon exchange. Um, so with mason bee, in the fall, you harvest them. So we encourage people to share with friends and family to expand the bee population. So those have been very very wonderful partnerships, and everybody is it's great because everybody already has the buy-in. So especially when you're working with a nonprofit.
I love those examples of not only niche audiences, but to your point, actual partnerships where you're going to help each other grow each other's businesses. And folks,
Mhm.
we're talking with Julie Lichtenberg about how the riches are in the niches, but it's not always easy. And I've got more questions for her. But before I get to those, let's hear how another retail brand has been achieving success with social media.
Love Pop Cards is a 3D greeting card company, and we are about 5 years old. And we are based in the idea of creating magical moments. And so our company's mission is to create 1 billion magical moments. So I am the director of customer happiness, which means I'm responsible for sort of being the voice of Love Pop to our customers, and then also being the voice of our customers within Love Pop. So it goes in both directions. So before we transitioned to Agora Pulse, one of the things that was really difficult for us was that we had a high volume of ads where customers were commenting and wanted to interact with us or wanted to tell us what they thought of the products we were advertising. And we had a limited number of licenses for our social media monitoring tool. And so we were unable to keep up with the inbox, and the inbox was actually unable to keep up with the volume of ads we were running. And so we both weren't getting all the comments that were being added to all these ads, and we couldn't reply to what we were getting anyway. So when we moved over to Agora Pulse and we got to the point where we had an inbox that captured direct messages, it captured the listening, and we were able to pull in the ad comments in the same place, we could use it just like we would use any other inbox like in our ticketing system. It's really changed our ability to follow up with customers and make sure we're being responsive and interacting with them when they want it. Also, a little hidden feature that I love is that you can see the history of any customer's comments with us. So sometimes we'll get a comment and we're not exactly sure either if they were talking to us earlier or if this is somebody who has been giving us a hard time for a while. And you can just click on them and see their profile and get an idea for how they've interacted with us over time.
So, Julie, for folks listening who they love these ideas, but obviously these are not the same audience for them, they need to find niche audiences that relate to their products and services. Are there any tools or methodologies that you found that are actually effective for researching those kinds of audiences?
Yes, well, of course, I'll say Agorapulse. Um, but, there are tools like SEMrush, or is it SEMrush or SEMrush? That, and then I have to shout out to Rand Paul, not Rand Paul, I'm sorry, Rand Fishkin, Rand Fishkin. Wow, Rand Fishkin
This went a
of
different direction
SparkToro.
fast.
Rand, I am so sorry. Rand Fishkin at SparkToro. Um, especially with SEO, what are people searching for? So you have to kind of start at a macro. That's what I do is start at a macro level of what are people searching for first, and do I have that on my website? Am I getting some traction from that? And then from there, that's when you start going granular of um, what specifically are they looking for? Does that mean I have to create a page on my website? Things like that. Again, going back to what do customers want? What are they looking for? What do they need? And again, you don't want to sound like a car salesman of, what can I do to get you to leave with a car type of thing, but that's kind of what we're doing. But because of our audience, we need to educate. So our posts and things like that are educational. And so going back with the tools, uh, definitely have to use social media scheduling tools, just for the basic things, and then using social monitoring tools just to make sure, am I being tagged in things? Because if you try to do that natively, that is too hard, and it's too hard. Make sure you have a budget because we don't live in a world where things are free anymore. So really, really fight for a budget to have some kind of social media tool. Right now, we are using Zoho. Um, mm, Not exactly where I want it to be, but you do need to have a plan. So I hate to say it, but a spreadsheet, and not so much a spreadsheet, but just a calendar. What is happening when? Um, because you have to know when things are happening way in advance because so many things rely on working backwards. So I I use a lot of different tools. Other ones, yeah, I've used others in the past. I've used Agorapulse, I've used Calendly, or not Calendly, CoSchedule. I've used Hootsuite. I've used so many of them, and I do it. Use one, and it all depends on how you feel. So that's a big one. Is what are you doing? We don't necessarily do a blog, but we do more social posts. So I need those scheduled posts, and then the monitoring. You have to know what are people, just because you put a post out there, you have to know, are people responding to it? So,
I couldn't agree more. Having a calendar is essential in any business. That's why we've invested so much time at Agorapulse and making sure that our calendar, you can pick and choose which social networks you want to display at any given moment. So you can see at a glance what's going out in one channel, all your channels. You can listen to all those channels. It's super important. And I love that you mentioned Rand Fishkin. You're at least a second or third guest across these podcasts that have talked about Spark Toro, and I love that. He's Washington native like
yeah.
yourself, and it's a fantastic product. I've had him actually speak in some of the virtual summits that we've had in the past. I think I should just have him as a guest in this podcast. So if you're using tools like Spark
Yeah.
Toro, SEMrush, you're doing social listening, you've identified a new niche audience, what do you think then your first steps should be in terms of like creating content and messaging that might actually resonate with them?
Sure. And this is where I go back to a previous role that I had where it was actually for Classmates, classmates.com, which is technically the first social media site. Fun fact. So when you're doing that, I'm of the old set mind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what resonates. So that's when you're doing a lot of testing. And the big thing there was test, test, test. Let's test it. We don't know unless we test it. And that's very true. You can read as many articles as you want of when's the best time to send something. You don't know unless you test. There used to be, 10 years ago, yes, Tuesday was the best day. Now it depends on your customers. So you have to test, test, test. Um, to start that, you need to just post regularly. When you're doing that, you're posting every day. Pick 3 to 5 social sites that you know there is a little traction already. If you're just starting out, I don't want to say which sites to use because it depends on your niche market. So when I was at the PTA, it was Facebook. Here at Crown Bees, it's starting to be YouTube and Reddit. So and with AMA Puget Sound, I ran the social media with that for a long time as well, and it was LinkedIn. So it depends on your industry and who are the actual buyers? Where are they hanging out? So, if you are a B2B, good luck. You're probably gonna do a little better on LinkedIn, most likely, but and then finding those industry niche organizations. So finding those people are. I'm gonna go back to us with Reddit. There are several subreddits, strictly about bees. There's one about mason bees. I created one about leafcutter bees, and and it's been great because people are just asking questions. They've not heard of us, but they know that Reddit exists. So so you have to test, you have to see what are people responding to. So when you're testing for a week, every day you're posting one that's just text, one that's all video, one that's all funny, maybe a meme or something, and finding what people are responding to, but making sure that you're including information, knowledge, information about your product. But it's not a sale specifically. If it's a sale that you're promoting, great, but people are getting a little tired of sponsored ads, let's be honest. And I could be just speaking for myself. But yeah, where are they and just what works with them? If you're on Instagram, obviously it's going to be very photo based, but what types of photos are they responding to? Are they responding to memes? Are they responding to, a reel that's educational? So play around, have fun, get some ideas and just play. This is your opportunity as a marketer, a social media marketer to just do things that you've always wanted to do to test and then go down the path that had the most conversion.
Terrific advice. Now, earlier you talked about AI and you talked about making sure that, everything sounds authentic, which I totally agree. I'm a huge fan of AI, but I 100% agree with your perspective. But I also think that brands, retail brands in particular, who might be finding some of these niche audiences that you're talking about, they might feel inauthentic reaching out to those
Mhm.
audiences. They might feel like I'm not a landscaper. Why am I talking to landscapers? Kind of a deal. How do you make sure that your outreach feels genuine?
That's really interesting because we're just starting that right now. We're just starting a big piece of that right now. So we're in the architecture phase, and that is a question that came up yesterday, based on I think we were talking about abandoned carts. Based on what did you buy, and who's calling us, and most of the people that call us, they are our customers already, and they are looking to mostly change their bee ship date, or that's like around this time of year because February to June is like our busiest time of year. So we're in the throes of it. But most people, yeah, they're calling to change their B date or um, we have some older folks who don't use a computer and they will call to place an order. So that's it's very interesting. Because we have a chat feature on our site, which it is managed by a human. But the initial questions, we do have AI, and that we just put that in this week. So
Mm.
it's been a lot of conversations going round and round. How does this sound? Fortunately, we've had an advisor helping us with utilizing AI and making sure that we have our brand voice perfect. So we spent 2 weeks working on our brand voice, and we're in the process of training. So it's been really fascinating, just down to choosing the voice itself. What is the most authentic to us? And what really came out of it, which is fascinating, is our customer service queen, Kelly, her her only stipulation was that because the people that are calling in are typically the older folks, because younger folks know how to make an order online. It's not an issue. But the older folks that are calling to make an order, they have hearing issues. So a lot of times she'll have to use a louder voice for the customer to hear them. So her biggest stipulation was making sure that it was a voice that wasn't too high pitched that customers can't hear. And so that was wow, that was very fascinating. I mean, we were going down to that minute detail of, what does this AI voice sound like? And we do have it set up that if you wanna talk to a person, you could talk to a person. So we're not we didn't completely leave our customers in the dark. So we are here. You can come to our store. We are here. So yeah, making sure you have to take some time, and when you're setting up AI for helping you with your voice, you cannot set it and forget it. You have to it's a tool, and that's what I really wish people would understand. It's a tool. It's just a tool to help you organize and grab information from the internet. We've got an interesting position too, because all of our all of our information on our website too, you can just use chat and learn about Mason bees that way. I don't want to say that obviously, but that information is coming from our site. So we've got a love-hate relationship with AI.
Well, Julie, you've been such a terrific and fun guest. Thank you so much. I know folks are going to want to learn more about Crown Bees, but also about you personally. Can you
Mhm.
tell folks where to connect with you and to learn more?
LinkedIn. I've been very sassy about not checking LinkedIn, but I will. I will. J.A. Lichtenberg. That's where I am. So, and also, I said this to Mike before, but when I was with AMA Puget Sound, I'm past president. I hosted a show very much like this, but we did it live. So I think I sent you the link to that as well. And Crown Bees, we've got a podcast. So if you're interested in learning more about mason bees, check us out on YouTube.
Fantastic. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, all of you, for listening. We'll, of course, have all those links in the show notes below. In fact, even if you're not interested in bees, go check out the podcast because you, as a retail brand, might be inspired on how you could create a podcast like that of your own. Meanwhile, don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition on Apple. Drop us a review. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.